So some are saying if Spirit Airlines disappears, it's better for the industry.
Breaking news about Spirit Airlines. According to the Wall Street Journal, the struggling airline preparing to ground its planes for good.
I just heard Spirit Airlines is shutting down, which really stinks because that's like my go-to airline.
CBS News has learned Spirit Airlines is preparing to cease operations, ground their airplanes as the
Talking about Spirit Airlines closing at 2 p.m. tomorrow, y'all. Y'all may think I'm dramatic, but Spirit really done got me to some moments, y'all. It really has. May have been a little ghetto and there may have been attitudes, but I always got there in one piece and at a good price too. I mean, like Spirit Airlines got me from mainland USA to Jamaica in one piece. You know what I'm saying? International. And now they're gone. On a serious note, I'm actually really upsetting because I'm thinking about all the workers who are going to get laid off and like the people who were actually be able to fly and travel because of these budget flights now can't. It's just so sad. It's so sad.
Breaking news, as it is apparently the end of the runway for Spirit Airlines. The budget airline is shutting down. They're closing. They have simply run out of money and time. The deal to bail them out from Trump, this government bailout where the government would own part of the airline, has collapsed as the bondholders for the airline balked at the terms of the deal and did not want it to go through on its existing terms that were proposed. So the airline is shutting down. Not sure exactly what this means for future travel, but if you're a ticket holder, your flights are likely going to be canceled and you will have to rebook on a different airline more than likely. So as we learn more about what's going to happen here, I will update you. But this is terrible news for the airline industry. It's going to put pressure on other airlines to get people on flights and have prices remain at a lower level for that group of airline travel. So we'll see what happens here, everyone. Be sure to check back for updates, comment, like, share, spread the word, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
Spirit Airlines are reportedly going out of business, and here's why you should care, even if you've never considered flying a Spirit Airlines flight in your entire life. Like, we've all loved the humor and the jokes about how, oh, we don't even have a pilot on board, so we will be asking for volunteers to step forward to fly the plane, and if none do so, then they will be randomly selected. Like, we've all laughed at it, but the seriousness is the fact that it's going to be costs and differences that are passed on to consumers across the airline industry the moment that you lose a Spirit Airlines from the bracket. So here's the breakdown. I used to fly between New York and London on Norwegian Airlines when they entered the market. They no longer service that route. When they first introduced planes going between there, and they were offering decent quality, low cost, a la carte tickets that you had to pay extra for checked luggage, for the meal on the flight, all of that, it forced the other airlines to become more competitive in terms of their offerings. All of a sudden, British Airways, Virgin Airlines, their tickets got ever so slightly cheaper because they wanted to capture those customers that maybe were on the brink of, okay, do we go budget or do we spend a little bit more and go with them? So in order to capture those customers, they had to be at least a little bit closer. They weren't trying to match the exact same pricing as Norwegian Airlines because they didn't need to, but they came closer in market price and offering. And that's the thing. If Spirit Airlines does go under, we are all going to be the ones paying the cost and the difference.
I just heard Spirit Airlines is shutting down, which really stinks because that's like my go-to airline for like short trips because they fly direct out of our hub to like Orlando and Miami and places like that. And yeah, when you have a family of 6, airline tickets get very expensive really quickly. And Spirit was like super cheap. We all flew to Orlando a couple of years ago and it was like $150 round trip per person, which is crazy. Now it's like $400 on other airlines. And so I'm bummed about that. I do love flying Southwest. They also have a hub to fly to Orlando, but it was like quadruple the price to fly Southwest. And Delta is probably my favorite as far as comfort, but they don't fly all the places we go like direct. I like to fly direct, especially with 6 people. And they're also really expensive, but they're probably the most bougie I've been on, even though I know there's some way bougier ones. And then American Airlines, we just flew them to DC and they were fine. No complaints. Kind of just like, regular airline. But yeah, Spirit was like the cheapest and I wanted to plan another trip soon on Spirit, and I guess it's not going to be happening, so that really stinks. And in other news, this is my daughter Squishy, and I actually really like it. It's one of those neatos, and I know these are like super popular right now, but I like it because it's not sticky. Like nothing sticks to it. Why do all the other squishies like get so dirty and sticky and like, this one's amazing. I can see why they're so popular.
Here's why Spirit matters, even if you're never going to set foot on one of their big yellow planes. Spirit, as an ultra-low-cost carrier, tends to bring fares down in markets where they operate. So if they go away, fares tend to go up. In Minneapolis-St. Paul, one of the markets they recently left, the 2 routes where they competed with Delta, well, those fares went up by as much as 50% as soon as Spirit left the market. And that means virtually everyone ends up paying more when the low-cost airline goes away. President Trump is now asking the Department of Transportation to look at a potential bailout of Spirit if another airline doesn't step up and buy the carrier. Spirit is at risk of being told to cease operations and liquidate by its creditors. We asked the Secretary of Transportation about it.
I think it would be great if someone bought Spirit, but we have to recognize that with Spirit, this is not a story that's new. If that happens, the timeline on when it happens, we can debate and talk about, but the question will be, does the federal government step in and bail out an airline that for a very long time hasn't been run well?
Is it a good use of taxpayer dollars?
To answer your question, no decision has been made, but they're real factors. Again, a lot of people work for Spirit. We care about the people that work for Spirit in this industry. But the question will be, can we do anything to save Spirit and make it viable? Or would we be putting good money into a company that inevitably is going to be liquidated? And that's a decision that we have to have our teams look at, and the president has to be briefed on, and we'll make a decision together.
Do you have a timeline on that?
I think the clock is ticking. It's relatively soon.
So the overarching theme is that Spirit Airlines is getting ready to go bye-bye because the bailout talks are going downhill, right? It's looking like the U.S. government won't bail out Spirit, and Spirit won't be able to make it, so they are an airline that is no more. Let's chat. Thing is, every time the cost of oil goes up, the price of airfare does too. And then it doesn't typically come back down. And then they make you pay for more and more things, right? Like I was on a flight and a cup of tea was $3. Like a box of tea is $3 and y'all is buying it at wholesale. What's happening? Anyway, it's the ticket prices never come back down. And then you are paying for everything other than literally a seat on that plane a la carte. Even if you want to pick your seat, that is an a la carte cost. How come they can't stay in business? Right? Like I get that the oil is high now, but like I'm just so confused. And Spirit makes you pay for every single fucking thing. I'm confused. Where is the money going? If Johnny had 4 apples.
So they're saying that Spirit Airlines may not be around for much longer because they just filed their second bankruptcy. I think they filed the second bankruptcy a while ago. And now it's putting Spirit at risk to just not be around anymore. And I'm sad. I know everybody on the internet is rich and they only fly Delta and they only fly certain airlines, but me, I'm going to turn up. I'm taking a Spirit flight every time. And the reason why is that as I'm doing like international travel, and it has to be like super international, I'm not paying all that for a flight. Like if I have to go home to Orlando real quick, I'm going to take a $20 flight. Like I'm going to do that. I think the worst airline in the world is Frontier. And I dread if I have to take Frontier, okay? That I understand, but Spirit, they never did me wrong. When the systems were shut down in Atlanta, even Delta couldn't get their flights in the air. And it was so funny because I was going to Miami and Spirit, when we landed, they were like, thank y'all for trusting us and for us being the only airline to get people to their destination on time. Delta couldn't even do that, okay? And if I'm paying $20 to go to Miami, or $4 to go to Miami, it's $120 to $150 on Delta. And Delta's already probably the most expensive airline that most Americans take. And if we get rid of Spirit, there's no way for them to not cap it, right? I would even argue and say that Spirit handles discrepancies even better than Frontier. My friend had a flight canceled, you know what I'm saying? They reimbursed her for her Uber. And of course, they got to run a different flight, you know. Frontier, they'll cancel your flight. Honey, that little $50 credit they give you is one-time use is so horrible. I'm like, please, God, save Spirit and take Frontier instead. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been on Delta before. Delta is nice. I have little to no complaints about Delta. If it's an international trip, I'm definitely going to take Delta. There's definitely a space for that. But realistically speaking, everybody just can't afford it. And with the way that things are looking, if I need to get to the destination, me getting there is more important than me saying that I took a Delta flight. It just is what it is. So I'm hoping that they figure it out.
CBS News has learned Spirit Airlines is preparing to cease operations, ground their airplanes, as the airline is poised to essentially run out of cash as soon as this weekend. So Spirit planes are in the air now. They will fly Friday. They may not fly Saturday, unless there is some last-minute effort to try to break the stalemate over this government aid package. But what we're hearing is that essentially that rescue plan has fallen flat, and the airline may be out of financial runway.
So some are saying if Spirit Airlines disappears, it's better for the industry. Better for who? Because it's definitely not better for you, because budget, just like Spirit, are the only reason you see $40 to $80 flights. They force the big airlines to compete, period, point blank. If you take them out of the equation, less competition equals higher prices. Airlines don't drop fares out of kindness now. They do it because they have to. Now, for me personally, I don't fly Spirit anymore. I gave them 2 chances. First time, it was an 11-hour flight delay that almost made me miss my cruise. Second time, they straight up canceled my flight on a Sunday, and they didn't have another flight that went out until Wednesday. So yeah, I was done after that. But Spirit has not had any plane crashes, and if you can pack light and dodge those extra fees, you can get a cheap ticket. So if they go under, don't act shocked when these cheap flights disappear. More consolidation, fewer choices, higher prices, that's not a win for us travelers. So let's hope they don't go out of business.
Even if you hated Spirit, you should mourn the fact that it's about to go 6 feet under. And that's because of one reason. Spirit provided one thing that is missing in the U.S. airline industry: competition. And so even if you never flew Spirit, it helped to keep prices low on the airlines that you did fly. Now that Spirit is gone, there will be less competition and more opportunity for airlines to jack up their airfares, which they were already doing thanks to this war in IRAN. Now, the state of the airline industry is really terrible in the US. There's less competition in the US airline industry than in the European airline industry, where there are more budget carriers. So in an era where people are really suffering from inflation, the loss of Spirit Airlines creates yet another area which will have upward price pressure, which is a fancy way of saying people are going to have to spend more for airline tickets. To the masterminds of this war in Iran and to Spirit for letting itself get in this situation in the first place, once again, you just made the D3 List, a podcast about dumb, desperate, and diabolical business decisions. For more good episodes of the D3 List, please visit the d3list.substack.com for episodes delivered straight to your inbox for free with no algorithm controlling what you can or cannot see.
Spirit Airlines is ceasing operations. So Spirit was looking for a government-backed bailout of $500 million. And it looked like Trump announced that the government wasn't going to back them out. And Spirit was looking to shrink their fleet of planes to about 76 to 80, lay off people and all that. But it looks like they will get no bailout. So it's looking like operations should fully cease by May 31st, unless something changes. This is not good for consumers, because despite the way people like to flex and all that, a lot of people, those vacations you see people in the Cayman Islands and certain things, they're flying Spirit. And I'm not judging. Like, to me, it's like, as long as you get where you're going, it really doesn't matter. It is a matter of preference, but whatever. But without Spirit's flight pressuring of American and United and Southwest and the other one, you wouldn't be able to afford those flights. Now you're going to be able to afford them less, because without Spirit there, y'all have already complained that Southwest is not affordable anymore. Are y'all going to be buying United and American $600 flights? I doubt it. And those are just one way. So who gets hurt here? The consumer. the low budget consumers who could barely afford those vacation as it is, now with gas causing price inflations on the airlines and all that, everyone's going to be in trouble. So I think the airlines themselves should be worried that if Spirit's going out, I don't think people are going to run to you. People will just not go on vacation. And then we could be having more airlines going out of business. So Spirit Airlines ceasing operations could have a ripple effect for the entire industry.
Apparently, Spirit Airlines could go out of business as soon as this week, and not on my watch, bro. Spirit was always there for me when I was broke. They like the little Caesar of the sky. When I ain't have it, they had it. All right? I remember they got me all the way to Detroit. I live in Los Angeles. They got me to Detroit for $32, which is crazy because I was headed to Canada. But for $32, it's pretty close. It's almost, I don't mind. Nah, bro, you gonna go fund me something. How much does Spirit even owe? They might owe like $16,000. I feel like we could cobble that together as a family, as a people. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they the first business that just need a GoFundMe. I like Spirit Airlines because they ain't got no systems. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they IT department is 2 fax machines that don't even talk to each other. Spirit Airlines is really just Southwest Airlines in 1984. I like buying my flights a la carte. I don't need carry-on. I just wear like 4 jean jackets.
Not y'all's president thinking about giving $500 million to Spirit Airlines in order to save them from the bankruptcy they just had to file. Now listen, I know the people love Spirit, and I know Spirit is tried and true, and they've certainly been around my whole adult life, okay? Just doing their thing. But what say you guys? Is this some sort of a conflict? Because not the government trying to intervene and give them a bailout. Sounds very socialist. Bailout from the government? Let's look at the details. The Independent is reporting the Trump administration may give Spirit Airlines a $500 million loan to keep the struggling airline afloat. Not the loan. The deal currently being discussed would have the U.S. government loan Spirit as much as $500 million in exchange for a potential stake in the company. There go. Because not the U.S. government having ownership in an airline. The Transportation Department and Commerce Department are involved in the discussions, which are not yet final. Y'all's president met with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Transportation Secretary Sean Real World Duffy, on Tuesday night to work on the deal, according to sources. This is what the people saying. Spirit Airlines would be on a much firmer financial footing had the Biden administration, baby, if they can't blame Biden, had the Biden administration not blocked the airline's merger with JetBlue. The Trump administration continues to monitor the situation and overall health of the U.S. aviation industry that millions of Americans rely on every day for essential travel. Now, apparently, Spirit has been battling financial issues since 2024, and they've been trying to recover from that. And they sort of kind of did recover after reaching an agreement with their creditors. However, now that everything is going on in the Strait of Hormuz, and with the cost of jet fuel having spiked because of what's going on in the Strait, they saying that it's starting to put financial strain on Spirit all over again. Guys, what y'all feel about Spirit Airline possibly going kaput? Would you guys miss Spirit? Again, I know Spirit is tried and true. I had not flown on Spirit since I was a 19-year-old trying to get to Miami for spring break for cheap. But they've been tried and true. And what y'all think about y'all's president talking about the U.S. is going to have a stake in Spirit if they give them that $500 million loan? It's always some foolishness.
Airlines around the world are going to begin raising their prices on bags. They're going to be raising their prices on their tickets, on really random things, right? On their fees. They're going to have random fees that pop up out of nowhere. They're also going to be canceling flights around the world. Places like Italy are already experiencing jet fuel shortages and have canceled flights. United and JetBlue have raised their bag fees. I know, insane. These are being framed as, now I'm not talking about Italy and the other countries, I'm talking about the United States. These are being framed as operational constraints. Well, I think that this has a whole different angle to it. A lot of our allies and a lot of Western countries are stating that they're rationing fuel, oil, they're announcing it, and they're not playing around. Countries are canceling school. They're telling people they're not allowed to drive into work. These are government mandated orders coming through. And I'm not here to scare you, but they're saying to stockpile on resources and things like that. Don't go and go crazy and go buy fucking toilet paper. Again, we will be inconvenienced. We will not be like in a crisis. Okay, everybody? And the only reason why I'm talking about this is because I had did some digging and some research. Spirit, I had seen that Spirit had like dropped like thousands of flights. And I was like, I have to figure out what they're talking about. The International Air Transportation Association has stated that jet fuel prices are up 104%. But here's the thing, that's the spot price, and airlines don't all pay the spot price. And we've talked about spot prices before and how some countries buy their oil based off the spot price. They don't have enough money to stockpile. So airlines hedge fuel, meaning they buy oil in the moment, like today, for the next 7 years. So they have to pay that same price for the next 7 years, if that makes sense. This is where greed comes in, and that's my favorite thing to talk about when we're talking socio-coochinomics, okay? Airlines have a choice. Either keep buying their fuel at the price that they bought it at in 2025, 2022, whenever the fuck that was. Or they could sell their cheap fuel and make a killing off of it. So what do? The airlines are selling their fuel contracts. Now, this is inference. This is a hypothetical, okay? This is a hypothesis. They're selling their futures contracts, making a killing off of them, and then citing shortage or operational constraints or issues, when in all reality, they're just not flying their planes and they're not doing anything because they made massive profits off their fuel contracts. And some countries might have like forced it to happen. Like, I can't say, I think it's in Eastern Europe. Lufthansa, I don't know where that is, leave me alone. They canceled around 20,000 flights. And for everybody's like, that's $1 billion in tickets. But it's $1 billion in tickets. But if you have $75 in oil future contracts, right? Like and it's $115 right now. You're dumb to sit on that. You're really dumb to sit on that. That's what a lot of people are thinking. And the only reason why I think Spirit may be doing that and the Lufthansa country is doing that, I don't know how you fucking pronounce that shit, is because first off, everywhere else around that country is flying. They're having like no issues. They haven't canceled that many fucking flights. That's insane. And then Spirit, everybody else is flying. They ain't canceled that many flights. Like, they'll cancel thousands, but 20,000? Like, damn. End the route completely? Damn. The mechanism is to always look at the corporate giants as victims. Like, airlines are facing constraints and restrictions when really the issue is you guys are trying to make a profit right now. Like, we all see it. We're not stupid. I think majority of the shortages are 40% financial greed and profit, honestly. The other probably are because of fuel shortages, the 60%. But I think 40% of it is about mostly just trying to make a profit off of their own contracts. It's like wholesaling, but you're whole fueling, you know? But who gets hurt, obviously, is the workers, because they're going to get laid off because of operations constraints, because they don't want to seem like they're selling their contracts to make a profit while they're not flying their planes. A lot of chemical and steel manufacturers are imposing a 30% surcharge to offset the price of oil and gas and energy. Yeah, and the CEO of Chevron has announced that energy is now not as flexible as it used to be, meaning one hurricane, one attack, one explosion, one issue in Saudi Arabia's refineries, one issue in Nigeria's oils, one issue would literally cause another collapse. There is no buffer anymore. And let's just now move into...
So Spirit Airlines is getting ready to be the first major U.S. airline to liquidate since the 2008 financial crisis. Now, the major U.S. airline, which is known for being low cost, oftentimes full of friction in the air, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection twice recently, once in late 2024 and again in August of 2025, after a failed merger with JetBlue and some ongoing challenges with competition from other airlines. In early 2026, Spirit reached a restructuring restructuring agreement with creditors aiming for an exit from bankruptcy by early summer of 2026, with plans including shrinking its fleet significantly. However, due to surging jet fuel prices driven by geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, kind of crushed its already thin margins that they had. The Trump administration was in some advanced talks to do a potential bailout equivalent to roughly $500 million, like a $500 million government loan in exchange for warrants that could give the U.S. government a large equity stake. However, Spirit couldn't secure enough support from bondholders and stakeholders, and without the bailout, the airline is running critically low on money. So as a result of them being unable to secure the money they need to continue operating, they've decided to liquidate their entire aircraft fleet and shut down the entire business.
Some breaking news about Spirit Airlines. According to the Wall Street Journal, the struggling airline preparing to ground its planes for good. Spirit was hoping to finalize a $500 million lifeline from the government before running out of cash. Well, it hasn't able to get any support to stay in business. Spirit now moving forward with plans to liquidate its aircraft fleet and shut down. So far, there's no information on the timing of the shutdown.